it is, I think, important to realize that we walked into Rwanda, which was at a time when the UN had about 15 other missions going on, including Cambodia and Yugoslavia, which was cranking up at the time, and Dayton was still in the works. And it was considered to be a simple Chapter 6 mission where both the belligerents of a civil war wanted peace and needed a neutral force to be a sort of a umpire. And that concept of peacekeeping, of observing and reporting, and not intervening, not protecting, was proven to be ineffective as we observed and reported upon the slaughter over months of hundreds of thousands of Rwandans. The nature of the conflict was generated by extremists who wanted to maintain power and use the ethnicity card to eliminate a minority group that they felt was preventing them in the peace agreement from maintaining power. And so they literally decided to wipe out 1.2 million people of another ethnicity, although of the same country, fellow citizens. And they succeeded in slaughtering about 700,000, with about 100,000 of their own who they felt were too reconciliatory. And we did not intervene. We did not engage. In fact, we argued for over 6 weeks that it wasn't a genocide, that it was simply tribalism. And so when does tribalism end and genocide commence? What is it? A number? Is it a ambition? Is it a stated political position? Was debated as they were slaughtering them in the tens of thousands a day. The international community essentially emasculated the UN, and so it's rather facile to say that the UN failed in Rwanda. I made mistakes, the UN Secretariat made mistakes, and the Security Council made mistakes. But the real source of the fact that we ended up witnessing a genocide and letting it happen and not intervening came from the individual sovereign states that make up the UN that deliberately decided not to get engaged. And so the inaction of those sovereign states was an action. It decided not to give the UN the resources, which meant not give me the resources to stop the genocide, where we could have saved still hundreds of thousands. But worse than that, it didn't even try to consider preventing it, because that's the ultimate aim, is to prevent it. And so it is an example where we have attempted to simplify it into sort of an ethnic, tribal, black African thing that happens every now and again. Well, in fact, it was a very sophisticated plan by very well-educated leaders to implement a genocide, and did it. And it was also a very deliberate decision by the powers, the countries, including mine, Canada, not to intervene, not to engage, because it wasn't in their self-interest. And so it happened. And we are still now, 16 years later, in an area, in the Great Lakes area, which is troubled by the impact of that genocide.